Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we will be discussing how to maintain muscle while running. Okay, so some background about me before we get started. I've been running for 15 years. I've been cycling for 11 years. I've been bodybuilding for 8 years. I started out as a 140-pound bodybuilder or 140 pounds at 9.9% body fat 8 years ago. And I'm now about 180 pounds, 11% body fat. So I've put on about 40 pounds of muscle in the past 8 years, and I never wanted to stop running when I started bodybuilding. So for the past 8 years, I've been bodybuilding and cycling and running concurrently. And here's how to maintain muscle while running. Now I will say, I get accused of being on steroids all the time because I exercise so much, and people think it's impossible to be able to do all this because of recovery issues. But what people don't realize is that I've been doing this for actually 16 years. I've been running for 16 years, cycling for 12. Um, and your body adapts. But anyways, here's everything I have done to build and maintain muscle over the past 8 years while running long distances and cycling very long distances. All right, step one. You always want to eat at or above maintenance calories. Okay, now for those of you who don't know, your maintenance calories are the amount of calories that you need to eat to maintain weight. Okay, so in order to find your maintenance calories, you want to go to Google and you want to search TDEE calculator. You open up the calculator. It's gonna ask you some questions. You answer the questions, and it'll give you your approximate maintenance calories. Now, let's say your maintenance calories are 3,500 calories a day. That means if you eat below 3,500 calories a day, you'll lose weight. If you eat above 3,500 calories a day, you'll gain weight. If you eat at 3,500 calories a day, you'll maintain weight. Now, I will say, with the more exercise you do every single day, the higher your maintenance calories will be. However, most TDE calculators, the more exercise you do, the more inaccurate they become. So using me, for example, a standard day of training is like lifting plus one session of cardio. On the weekends, it's like lifting and 3 sessions of cardio. But let's just assume it's a standard day. A standard day for me is my maintenance is about 4,600 calories a day. Okay, that's assuming an hour and 15 minutes of lifting and 10 miles running. My maintenance is 4,600. Okay, according to maintenance calculators, my maintenance is like 3,700 calories, but in reality, it's 4,600. And I know this from trial and error because I know that if I were to eat 3,700 calories while doing all the exercise, I would lose weight rapidly. I would lose approximately 2 pounds of fat every single week. Okay, so keep in mind, the more exercise you do, the more trial and error will be required. Okay, I'm not saying these aren't inaccurate because like most people aren't running 10 miles and lifting for an hour and 15 minutes or more every single day. But just keep in mind, what you want to do is what I would recommend. Okay, is that once the calculator gives you your approximate maintenance calories, you want to eat there for about 2 weeks. If you notice weight gain, eat more. If you notice weight loss, or excuse me, if you notice weight gain, eat less. If you notice weight loss, eat more. If you're maintaining, you're maintaining. Okay, so just always make sure you're eating enough calories. Now, number two, this one isn't talked about very much, but I think it's very important, and that's always lift before running. Now, I found out very early on that running greatly impacted my performance with lifting. So, like, let's say I ran 10 miles at 7 a.m. and I did a workout immediately after. Of course, my lift would be greatly affected, meaning my strength would be reduced, and the workout would just feel much more difficult. And that was a consequence of using a lot of energy during the run. All right, now let's say I lifted or excuse me, let's say I ran at like 7, let's say I ran 10 miles at 7 a.m. and I lifted weights at 7 p.m. Okay, so 12 hours in between sessions, or 11 hours rather, or 10 and a half hours rather in between sessions. Okay, now let's say I ate like 4,000 calories in between those 10 and a half hours. Okay, so I ran 10 miles at 7 a.m. I finished about 8:30, and I ate 4,000 calories between 8:30 and my lift at 7 p.m. Your lift is still going to be affected even though you had a long recovery and you ate lots of food. Okay, there's just something about running before lifting that greatly affects your gains. Now, keep in mind, if you're lifting before running, if you're running before lifting, you're not going to be able to lift as much weight, which is going to result in less strength gains, and less strength gains will result in you not being able to maintain your muscle. Okay, this is about maintaining muscle. Okay, so always lift before running. All right. Doing the opposite makes lifting extremely hard. And this is just something I picked up on over my 8 years of training. All right. Step three: eat 1.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight. All right. Since you're doing more cardio, your body's gonna want to lose more muscle, especially if you're doing high volumes of considerable amount of cardio. So I'd recommend eating 1.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Now, the literature says you need 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but since you're doing cardio, like I said, you want to eat 1.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Some high protein foods are chicken, ground turkey, ground beef. I recommend 93.7. Fish, I like tilapia, flounder, cod, salmon, um, tuna. There's egg whites, eggs, Greek yogurt, beef liver. So plenty of options. So make sure you're eating enough protein, especially when you're doing lots of cardio, whether it's cycling or running. Okay. Step four, stay hydrated. Staying hydrated is obviously incredibly important for cardiovascular activities, but it's also incredibly important for lifting weights. So let's say your activity level is increasing, so you're gonna need more water. But even if you're dehydrated slightly, that can greatly affect your performance in the gym. The literature says that being slightly dehydrated affects your performance by 10% when lifting. And 10% might not seem like a lot, but when your max bench press is 300 pounds, that means if you're dehydrated slightly, that means your max goes from 300 to 270. So it's very important to stay hydrated. Okay, drink enough water. All right, drinking water is very important. So I lift weights at 5 a.m. I go to bed at like 7:30, and of course, I'm getting dehydrated when I sleep, and I'm a little dehydrated when I wake up. So what I do is I have about 40 to 60 ounces, usually about 60 ounces of water. In the 30 minutes, from 4:30 to 5 preparing for the gym. So I'll just chug 60 ounces of water, and of course, since I'm in a dehydrated state, I'm not really having to use the bathroom multiple times because I'm drinking so much water. You would think, well, since you're chugging that water, you have to use the bathroom, you're gonna pee it all out. But what actually happens is because you're dehydrated, your body actually uses that water to rehydrate and replenish yourself, and it prepares you, gets you ready for the your gym session. All right. Now, step five: get good sleep. Sleep is incredibly important, especially the stronger you get in the gym, the bigger you get, and the better you get at running or cycling. Whenever you get to you'll get to a certain level, um, in which the only way to improve is doing everything right, and doing everything right includes getting good sleep. I recommend at a minimum of 7 hours of good quality sleep. Sleep is very important, especially with the stronger you get and the better you get at your cardio choice. The only way, if you get to this level, you know, you'll have to get sleep in order to improve. All right, and that is all I've got for you guys today. If you're interested, I offer one-on-one coaching on how to bodybuild, how to get shredded, how to become a hybrid, how to bodybuild and run concurrently, all that good stuff. Links in the bio. If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.